Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Your Company Health podcast, the podcast where we highlight the success stories of business owners and professionals. I'm your host, Andre Wright, the owner of the Wright Consult Digital. Today we have Mr. Jonathan Sparks, founder of Sparks Law. Jonathan, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show. This is exciting. Woo!
Yes, I'm excited to get into it too, and for having you here today. So Jonathan, no time is limited, but I want you to tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you started in the legal space.
Oh man, I started out. I was a musician, and I was like doing shows for people. I was a hired guitarist, gun at the studios and stuff, and I did studio work. And a bunch of my friends were getting record contracts, and they didn't know what on earth it meant because it was like a legal contract and wasn't, didn't have anything to do with music theory. So they asked me about it, and I because of my training in Los Angeles, I had kind of a knack for it, and I knew what a lot of the provisions were, and I just kind of geeked out on it. And then I figured out that I was pretty good at writing contracts and negotiating contracts and calling BS on people. And found I had a knack for it. So I went to law school in DC and specialized in contracts and business law specifically. And I worked for a little over a year at a prestigious big firm. One of the top ones is called King Spalding. But we were only representing like Fortune 500 companies, and it was a very different thing than me getting to represent, individuals who own a $5 million company or a 10 million company or even a pure startup. So that's kind of the backstory.
Well, that's an interesting story. So I'm going to ask. So what type of music?
I didn't know you were gonna ask. I love blues and jazz and like grunge rock. There's just the soft spot in my heart for grunge rock, and there always will be, I believe. I think that was one of the best times. No, my band Poiesis, Poesis, we had a stand-up female bassist and a female kind of sultry jazzy vocalist, and I played indie rock guitar and jazz guitar. And then we had a drummer. It was pretty cool. You can still check it out. I think it's on iTunes.
Yeah, I'll surely check it out. So do you still play with the band? Do you still?
Yeah. I've got my house has a lot of guitars, and I've got we did a lot less when COVID hit. We were supposed to do a concert for March 17th, 2020 for St. Patty's Day. But that was like 2 days after the pandemic broke out, so we weren't able to do that.
Okay. Oh man, it's always good to to be good at something like that on the side. I mean, I always wanted to like play the piano and do something in music. So man, that's a good stuff that you can manage your main business as a lawyer, and then you do that on the side. So I want us to go back to Sparks Law Firm. So I want you to tell our audience about the services. What type of law specifically do you practice?
So we focus on businesses primarily.
So there are a lot of business lawyers out there. What separates you from the competition?
I don't know. We're pretty hip, we let our hair down. I think we have a creative approach, and we're not stuffy, which sounds like a small thing, and it is, but I think it makes a world of difference. Most business lawyers are just boring and dry, and they're worried about risk, so they will just pummel you for your great genius, brilliant idea with, I don't know, Steve. It seems really risky, but we have creative ideas that, spark the entrepreneurial fire, so to speak, and gets people to, structure their company in a safe, legal way. If you have a new idea, typically that means it's by default it's going to need a new type of legal structure probably. Otherwise, you would just repeat what everyone else has done. So we love entrepreneurs, and we're creative and easy to talk to.
Awesome. So, Jonathan, I know you have a new book on Amazon, Business Success Secrets.
Yeah.
Talk to our audience about that.
Yeah, I got with a bunch of other entrepreneurs. We set the floor limit at a rolling seven figure at $1 million revenue number with a 20% profit margin. So you gotta know something about business to be on our team. Most of us have uh, interviews and stuff that we did for like Forbes and Success Magazine and other things. Really, just what we were writing for was to give people advice. There's so much that I wish I knew, and I wish somebody could have told me when I first started, because it would have saved me years of pain and struggle and difficulty, and I would have been so much more successful, so much faster, had I not gotten in my own way and made all of these mistakes. So that's what the book is there for. It's just a kind of a quick and easy handbook to just get you out of your own way.
Definitely, and I'll surely check it out, and our audience could find it on Amazon, and sure, if they go on your website, they could there's a channel there too.
Yeah, it's an Amazon bestseller, I think, in 8 categories, and certainly business and all things business mentorship. So yeah, check it out. It's just 99 cents. It's not, we're not in it for the money.
Awesome. Oh, I know that it's worth it. It's worth more than that, but Jonathan, during this, uncertainty in our country with regards to the pandemic, laws are changing.
It's had a large effect on employment laws. Really, we were saying, this is back in like May last year, I think, in 2020. But it was obvious that there had been more changes to the laws for business owners to comply with had been in the prior 10 years.
Wow.
So MLA was sort of thrown on top of its head. We had a lot of changes with all the PPP loans and everything. Gig workers were different, whether or not what you could do with your commercial lease or not had changed, if you were allowed to not pay rent, or if you were allowed to get evicted, or what those terms were. Manufacturing was totally different. Just everything had changed. To your question, I mean, with employment laws, the main one is that you, as a business owner, you have to give people special treatment if they have anything associated with COVID. So if they themselves, the employee themselves, or if one of their loved ones that lives with them, such as a child or a spouse, has it, then you have to give them a minimum of 10 weeks basically paid leave. I think it's 2/3. It's a little different in different industries, but it's 2/3 typically of their normal pay rate. So they can take the time off immediately. You're not allowed to fire them. Honestly, if you're considering firing anybody, feel free to give us a call, because there's so many changes in the law now. It's kind of a minefield that you have to walk through. But even if you were considering firing them before that, and then they claim to have COVID, even if it's a lie, there's a lot that you need to be very cautious about, because the deck is sort of stacked against the employer in a lot of ways.
So basically, you're saying the laws are stacked against the employer, so it's more favorable to employees. But I want to tell our audience, what if you could say some things that employees should know about immediately because of these changes. What are they?
That employees should know about?
Employees, yes.
Yeah. Well, it's different in every state. Okay, so different states are more or less favorable to employees and employers. Georgia, where we're headquartered, is typically more employer friendly. But these are federal laws that sort of overstep the state's laws. Okay, so it's sort of on top of it. So the state minimum wage for Georgia, I believe, is still something like $1.15 an hour. But of course, the federal minimum wage is, $7.45 or $7.15 an hour, and
Right.
they're trying to up it now.
Yeah.
So it's a supremacy clause, right? So the federal law overtakes the state one, okay, and you just kind of have the lowest common denominator. So employee rights after COVID, that's the biggest one, the Family First Response Act, where you can take 10 weeks off, which is really a long time. I mean, if you have COVID, most people have it for 2-3 weeks maybe, and then they'll typically recover within a week or two after that. So you're looking at like 5, but you actually get 10 weeks off, which is it's kind of the length of a teacher vacation, for a summer vacation, as it used to be. But yeah, if your employer tries to not allow you to do that or not pay you, or if you said anything about being sick with COVID, and then they sort of, in a reactionary way, fire you or say, well, we're not going to pay you the same rate or something, or we're going to cancel your bonus, anything like that, that's a red flag, and you probably have a claim of right, a lawsuit that you could sue them for. So talk through that with an attorney.
Fantastic. Yeah. So some good things to know if you're listening out there and you being discriminated against, definitely reach out to Jonathan and his team, and he can definitely help you guys. How about severance? Is this mandatory for laid off employees at this time?
Well, no, technically it's not mandatory in most states. I think some states might require it, but certainly not most states in the Southeast area. But that isn't to say that it doesn't happen very often. Just bringing accusations could scare a employer into having to basically get a settlement agreement somehow with you, which is typically what's included on a severance. So if you're going to pay somebody extra for a severance, for example, there's typically a waiver in there for other claims of action, other lawsuits that they could bring. So you're basically saying, here's $3,000, and I'm going to take that $3,000 in trade for me forfeiting any right to sue for discriminatory practices or violations of the Family First Response Act, like we were talking about. So that severance agreement is really more of a settlement agreement when you sign it. I would say if you don't plan on signing it, or you want to have an attorney review it before you sign it, don't cash the check. Don't cash the severance pay check until you've had it reviewed, if that makes sense, because otherwise the employer has an argument that you've accepted money.
Right. Yeah, very, very important point right there. I refuse to go to work in a pandemic and still my job's still intact. Can I be fired for not going to work because I'm fearful?
Fearful of getting sick. Yeah, that's kind of a gray area, and it's changed from where we were 10 or 12 months ago in 2020. I'd say generally the employer can likely require you to perform the tasks. If you don't want to come in and you're willing to accept, not making money during that time, like not getting paid anything, if I were advising the employer, I would tell them to definitely allow you to do that because you don't feel safe, and there's not really a loss to the employer to sort of keep you on the team, but not pay you while you're taking that time off. If you want paid leave for the fear of contracting COVID, I completely understand. And I would be in the same situation and probably doing the same thing if I were you. But unfortunately, I think the employer would probably be able to let you go for non-performance.
Okay. So obviously, with COVID, it's so complex.
Yes.
Because of this dynamic, it's really complex. So that's why listeners, if please go see someone like Jonathan. If you're in the workplace and you're unsure of what's happening. So Jonathan, I want you to tell our audience what are the series of steps they should take before they make any, say, drastic decision of not going to work or walking off the job. If you could say, do this, X, Y, and Z, what would you tell an employee to do?
Honestly, reach out to a lawyer that handles this type of stuff, because every situation is really going to be different. Are you uncomfortable because of some sexual harassment going on, some discrimination going on? Are you uncomfortable because someone at the office contracted COVID, or their spouse contracted COVID? Are you uncomfortable because of like the situation, like do they put you in a barn, or like in a basement, in a windowless room? Like, what's the reason? And the reason for that is that it's going to change drastically the legal advice that I would give, or that this attorney that you talk to would give. Typically, I would say it's best to, if there is some kind of discriminatory practices, I would put it in writing and screenshot that email that you send to a superior or the HR department if you have one. HR as well, if you believe that there's a COVID outbreak in the office or something, because that their response, their reaction to that email is going to say a lot. It's going to, it's going to depend on the strength of your case, is going to depend on their reaction. But I would not suggest, walking off right away, because that can sort of give the employer more strength of a defense. So it's totally confidential to talk to a lawyer. It's easy. Most lawyers will, talk to you for free, or, $100 or something. And it's well worth it. I mean, if you're looking at a $30,000 case, or at least a $5,000 case, it's well worth it for you to just have that conversation and see what that lawyer's advice is for that particular situation.
And Jonathan, that's great advice. And if I'm hearing you correctly, if you're uncertain of how to approach things in this environment in the organization, reach out to a lawyer first. That should be your first step. Reach out to a lawyer and get their advice on how to proceed. And Jonathan, I know we have been talking, about employees and the different laws, but I want to circle back to Sparks law firm, your business. How has COVID impacted your business and also your client base?
I'd say it's affected our business and our clients a great deal. There's been some pretty severe swings. There's been low downs and there's been high ups. I think around April we noticed a pretty major downtick in our business that we were doing for people, because a lot of business owners were just totally uncertain. Should I hire this new person? Should I spend money on marketing like I normally do? Gyms took a big hit. Obviously, everybody was uncertain. So it started picking back up, and then we were doing better, and we still are now, because I think everybody's gearing up for this surge. Once vaccinations are widespread enough, I think there's going to be so much pent up demand that everyone's going to go out and and do as much in commerce, as possible, because we all I miss music concerts. My God, I miss them so much. And I miss going to a bar and, restaurants and just hanging out with people and not worrying about, Are they wearing masks? Do I have the hand sanitizer? Like everything like that. And Biden just recently said that they, with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, they're likely to have enough doses by May, which is much sooner than they were anticipating earlier. So that's like a 6 or 7 month. Yeah. So it could come as early as June, July, where we could be largely back to normal. Now that we've all adjusted to the new normal. Now we get to the old normal.
Well, of course, we all can't wait to go back to, things as before.
Oh yeah,
some things will come back. There are a lot of different things that we may not go back to.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's wonderful. I never enjoyed. I mean, I live in Atlanta area, and traffic used to be, just utterly absurd. I mean, you would sit in traffic for an hour and a half easily if you were caught at the wrong time on the wrong street. And if you make a wrong turn, then it's an extra 45 minutes just to like make up for it. So I specifically bought a house that was removed from most of the traffic, and I'm thank God that I did before the pandemic broke out. But I think it makes sense. People obviously can work from home. They can be very productive. Business owners have figured out how to keep people accountable to the work product that they need from employees. But there is no need for a guy like me to like go down to downtown and sit in some highfalutin marble encased legal office when I can just do it in my home office and probably write a better contract at the end of the day anyway. And I'm certainly happier and I get more time with my family. So yeah, I love that we figured this out and there's no longer that stigma with working from home.
Exactly. I'm with you. This pandemic comes with advantages and the disadvantages. You're right. It's so easy to drive down that 400 to go down to Atlanta, not that before. So in that sense, it's a positive. But Jonathan, has been a great conversation. We're winding down, but I want to tell our audience, if you can tell us one thing that you need to work more on, what that would be. I may be putting you on the spot, but
oh yeah, that's fun. Wow. Okay, you weren't kidding.
It's important, and you need to work more on it.
I need to work on helping my business to be able to operate without me. It operates very well, but God forbid something were to happen to me, or I want to take like a meaningful, vacation. Like I basically can't go to Europe right now because that would require, in my mind, at least 2 weeks away from the business.
Right.
And, I don't think my business could handle that just yet. It'll get there, but I struggle with making the business fully independent of me. I think there's some kind of self-identification with like working hard that I probably need to let go of, and I need to come up with solutions for and sort of replacements and backup people and processes and procedures for so that I can be gone some of the time.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And for me as a business owner, I struggle at times with the same thing. Sometimes you just want to do everything. You want to work the long hours, and you want to have your fingerprint on every single thing. So, but I know, just like what you said, eventually, the business should be able to, take care of itself without you. That's when you know that it has evolved. So,
yeah.
Great answer on that. And Jonathan, before we go, I want to tell our audience, how can they reach you?
Easiest way is our good old telephone. This guy right here. It's 470-268-5234. Or you're welcome to email me directly at jsparks, SPARKS, @sparkslawpractice.com.
Fantastic, sir. Hey, Jonathan, buddy, it was a pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. And thank you for taking your time out of the day today to chat with me. And let's keep in touch.
Okay, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, and have a nice day.